All right, good morning, everyone.
You want to advance?
We're ready to start our next speaker, which is Sagan. All right. Sagan comes to us from a previous presentation in January this year, right?
Yes.
He's a Microsoft engineer / solution person / Mr. Everything, right?
Yeah, I just do my job. They pay me. I do what I'm asked to do.
All right, so put your hands together. Welcome, Mr. Sagan.
Thank you. All right. Well, how many of you guys, I think the last presentation did mention this, but how many of you have heard of artificial intelligence? Raise your hand, right? Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft. I've been at Microsoft for 5 years. I joined during the pandemic in 2020, and my career has been pretty much defined by trying to take maybe traditional software development principles and then reconcile that with the reality of what they're pushing at us every single day and the impact of AI on the field. Here's a little bit about me. My family's from Nigeria. I was born in Seattle, Washington, though, grew up there. I went to college in St. Louis, Missouri at a school you've never heard of called Lindenwood University in St. Charles, and then I did my master's at Washington University in St. Louis. I then moved to Charlotte in 2020, got hired at Microsoft, and I've lived in Charlotte ever since. I have some of the technologies I use every day at Microsoft, a lot of Python, a lot of SQL and Scala. You could almost describe a part of my role as data engineering. So I work on Microsoft's global financial systems, analytics, insights. So not exactly hot stuff, but it's very important, and I still have a job, and I'm thankful for that, right? And in Charlotte, I have my hobbies listed there. One of them is just going to random places. We have a hybrid work policy, so I get to work remotely. I work from a lot of coffee shops and cafes, and Charlotte Third Places is a project that I started and I run that just shares some of that with people around the city. And so if you want to learn more about me, you can scan these QR codes or you can come talk to me afterwards. But today, our focus is not me. It's about artificial intelligence, and specifically a kind of artificial intelligence that if you follow the news, you may have heard of it a lot, but most people speaking about it don't fundamentally understand what it is. And we're going to understand it together because I guarantee you it's not hard. So has anyone heard any of these concepts up here? RAG, pronounced RAG, MCP, RLHF, Agentic AI. Does that sound, any of that sound familiar? And a lot of those things are complicated if you are working every day as a machine learning engineer, but in your day-to-day life and what you do as a PM or whatever you do at the company you're at, it's really not that hard to understand, right? Most of us don't understand the science of rocket science, but it's a lot of power, and then the thing goes up, right? That's fundamentally what's happening, and you don't need to be a scientist to understand it, and that's what we're going to do today with Agentic AI. All right, now here's the key thing. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to represent Microsoft's Agentic AI platforms. I'm not here to sound important, all right?
Sagan, sorry to interrupt. Just 1 second. In order for us to capture your PDUs correctly, and apologize for not getting the survey correct, what I'm going to do is start passing out a sign-in sheet. Just please make sure you write your name, and if you can remember your PMI code, that'd be great, okay?
All right, well, you guys do that. I'll talk more about what I'm talking about today. All right, so you can write and listen. So the point of this presentation is understanding it's not for me to appear smart or to take my daily life as a software engineer and project it out. This is going to be interactive. You might have seen the bags on the stage. I will reward you if you raise your hand and answer questions and interact. We're going to have fun. It's not that serious, right? Agentic AI is new to all of us. And we're going to learn today the history of artificial intelligence and why, if anybody on LinkedIn says they've been an Agentic AI developer for decades, they're lying, because it hasn't been a thing for decades, right? This is all very new to the point where software developers that I work with are overwhelmed. I know principal software engineers at Microsoft that if you looked at their LinkedIn, you would think these guys have to be geniuses that are candidly speaking to me because I'm a little, I'm younger and maybe closer to some of this stuff. Like, what is going on? I go into a meeting and there's 12 acronyms that I've never used in my entire career, right? And they're expecting me to use GitHub Copilot, and I've been writing code for decades. And I don't understand why I would use it. And they're tracking the amount that we use these products within the company to make sure that we're on board with using AI. So it can feel overwhelming. So we're going to slow down, right? We're going to please ask questions, please interact. Agentic AI, and we're going to get to what it is later, but the impact on, I guess, professional, so the Fortune 500 and careers, but the impact on society is significantly more in flux than generative AI. And we're going to figure out why today, about what it really means to be agentic. So, with all that being said, when we talk about artificial intelligence today, and everybody's worried about the impact on careers, what it means for my job, and what should I be learning, what do we really mean? And by that, I'm going to reference an older movie called Terminator that was before ChatGPT, right? And in that movie, they had artificial intelligence. And yet, between the time of the Terminator movie and the release of ChatGPT, were you guys worried that AI was going to take your jobs? No. But then ChatGPT came out and you got worried. So even though we use AI, are we really talking about the same thing? What are we really talking about? What do you think? It's a kind of AI. And your hint is the letter, yeah. Okay, yes, but the thing that's like a step above that, the larger field. All right, it starts with a G. I heard generative. Who said that? Clap for this man. All right, clap for this man. And my mic runners, you can walk people some gifts too. Can we get whoever that was? It's not that great, but it's my token of appreciation. There you go. All right. So this is a new moment. We've had AI. Has anyone seen the movie The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch? It's about Alan Turing. The point I'm making is 1950s, right? Before I think most of us were born, they've been playing around with AI. And we've had movies like Terminator and RoboCop and the Black Mirror episodes, so something changed. None of us were worried about getting fired because they're replacing us with AI since the 1950s. Right? From the we had the dot-com boom, we had all this stuff and nobody was worried. So in 2021, I think more accurately it's 2022, but in 2021, they released a small preview of what became ChatGPT, and then everybody's worried. Right? So the question we got to answer is, what is generative AI, which the definition is there, the answer is on the slide, right? But then what is agentic AI that everybody's talking about, acting like it's a big deal? So it took me a long time to make that slide, all right, with the animations. But this is some of the history of artificial intelligence. The most important one here, I'd say, is 2011. Can you raise your hand if you use an iPhone? Right? Do you use Siri? Is Siri good? It's hit or miss, right? That's artificial intelligence. Have you been worried that Siri is going to take your job since 2011 when Siri came out? No, right? So we have fundamentally moved to something else, but we're using the same terminology. AI. We're going to learn some of the differences here today. All right, this is a big statistic. So it took 16 years for there to be 100 million people using cell phones. It took 7 years for the internet, it took 4.5 years for Facebook, and it took 3 months for ChatGPT. This is why it's a big deal, right? If someone tells you that AI is a fad, and it's going to go away, the numbers don't support that. The way that it's being used, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the money that they're spending, not money on software, but money on buying land, building data centers, buying GPU, that's real physical stuff in the real physical world. Right? So when a company spends $100 billion to build a data center, that's not like a Bitcoin mining rush. Those are physical things in the world. It has a pretty big impact. So before we continue, we're going to test your knowledge. All right? This is, has anyone used ChatGPT? Raise your hand. All right? What does the GPT stand for? Does anyone know? And I'll tell you what, if a PM was on the team at OpenAI, they would have never named it ChatGPT because it's a terrible name for a consumer-facing product. You wouldn't name it, it's like naming Excel, Microsoft C# framework.net. It doesn't make sense, you're naming it after the technical stuff. It doesn't make sense. But what does GPT stand for? All right, generative. Clap for this man. Yeah, go ahead and right there, this gentleman right there, yeah. How about the P? Anybody else? No, close, not prompt. Anyone else? How about the P? Not predictive. Say, not programming, yeah. Process, not process. This is a tough one. Not prompting. Pre-trained. Clap for this man right here. All right, can we reward my friend right here? Pre-trained. All right. So the generative, I think you already get. You type something, it makes you something. It generates stuff, right? The pre-trained is the important. If we go back in time, you used to use ChatGPT. You would ask it a question like, who won the game yesterday? And it wouldn't know, right? This is like 2022, 2023. And then they did something where it started to be able to, and we'll talk about that later, but it's pre-trained. The amount of data in that model does not change. And if you want to add more data, you need a lot of money. You got to train it, or you have to go through a process called fine-tuning, which is also very expensive. So it's pre-trained. When you use GPT-5 or Claude Sonnet 4.5, it's set. It's like someone shipping you an iPhone, right? It's in your hands. It's a brick, right? You got to get the next iPhone to get the next version. And how about the T? This one's very transfer. I got to reward someone. Let's go back there. You already got enough. Yeah, can we get clap for this lady and give her a back? Yeah, Transformers. All right. This is a very complicated topic. The concept was invented by Google in 2017. They released a paper called "Attention is All You Need." This is deep machine learning stuff that we don't really need to talk about. The only thing we need to discuss is if I give you the sentence, I come home from work and we're all friends and you guys are hanging out, and I say, yeah, I had an okay day. You know, I just stopped and got a burger, I got shot, and I really want to go lie down. What's the most important part of that sentence? I got shot, right? As a human being, you have the ability to understand in a group of text what the most important part is. And if computers can't do that, your back and forth conversation with ChatGPT won't be very good, right? It has to know what's the most important part, and using pattern recognition, some extremely smart people figured out how to do that. How to build a mathematical model to take human language and highlight what words, on average, are the most important when you see them grouped together. So if your kid texts you, hey, I'm doing fine, you know, I feel really bad, I'm sick, can you buy me something? What worries you the most in that? I'm sick, right? So the words I'm sick close to each other almost always indicate that's important, right? And we can do this with all of language, and we taught computers how to do it. So, all right, someone already said the answer, but let's see, someone who I haven't called on. Yes, can we clap for this lady and reward it? Large language model. All right, I'm not gonna drain this slide. They took a lot of data, written stuff, they fed it into a system, they looked at how often words appear next to each other. They did it so many times, like hundreds of trillions of times. Essentially, they have reduced human language to math. And what are computers good at? Math. So we have not created like Terminator AI, but what we have is really good because we figured out how to turn our language into just a math problem. And that's why it's amazing. So before we continue, one important thing to realize is pattern recognition is the foundation of artificial intelligence that we have today. We don't have RoboCop, Terminator, Black Mirror, whatever shows you watch, right? We don't have that AI yet. They're working on it. Whether or not it's going to be invented is a matter of opinion, and I'm not here about opinion. We're going to just talk about things that are today, right? But that kind of AI is called artificial general intelligence. If we ever do invent it, that's a human-wide problem, right? We're going to have philosophy, religion, science. We'll have all sorts of issues. But we don't have that, and many researchers feel like we're not even close, right? The fundamental understanding of what large language models do and the leap between that and human intelligence, a lot of them feel like we're not close, but then there are others, right? If you follow the news who feel like, oh, we're almost there, that's not in scope for today, right? But Agentic AI, all right? These are some, look up here, these are articles from leading publications just in the year 2025 discussing this concept. Agentic AI, the future of Gen AI is increasingly agentic. Agentic AI is a new iteration of blah, 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 AI to transform wealth management. So what are they talking about? These are all the big, important news publications, right? Bloomberg, New York Times, Washington Post, Gartner that consults almost everybody, the Forbes, right? What are they talking about? What is agentic AI? You'll get a chance to answer on the next slide. All right, to start, what does the word agents, forget technology, let's just use human language. What does that word mean? Agency. We'll be able to deduce what agentic AI means just by understanding language. Yeah, who said that? Yeah, can we reward? right? The ability to make independent decisions, act on behalf of, that's agency. So we would all describe ourselves as having agency. You're an adult, you can choose where you'd like to live and where you, to a certain degree, right? That you have agency. You're able to act independently. So if that's the definition of the word agency, then what's agentic AI? It's just a small step. If agency, let's go back, is the ability to make decisions and act independently, then agentic AI must be, huh? Yeah, well, kind of. You're close, you're very close, right? But we're going to try, agentic AI would then be, it still does need people to a certain degree, right? And we're going to talk about that later. Yeah, but sorry, someone was saying something. Independent, yeah. AI that can make decisions and act independently with minimal. So you were close. It's not, you can't take us out because, I mean, it's people like me building those systems, right? Like, it doesn't just pop up, but it's minimal human oversight. Instead of going to ChatGPT and saying, you know, hey, can you look something up for me? You're basically giving a loose set of instructions and you're just letting the system go. And you're coming back 7 days later and hopefully you have a multi-million-dollar website that it built for you, right? So that's agentic AI. Here are some of the key characteristics. Go ahead and cement this in your memory because we're about to do an exercise and we're going to try and figure out how much you can identify whether something's agentic AI, right? Generative AI, which is just you give it a prompt, it generates something for you. These are the key characteristics. So autonomy. Right? You allow the system to go forward and make decisions and take actions, and you're not there baby stepping it all along the way. Reasoning, which means that you don't need to write computer code, right? You're basically writing human language instructions. It's able to take that almost like a human would if you had someone who worked on your team, and if that concerns you, that's why we're going to talk about that later, about the ethical implications of what we're building, right? Being able to adapt to a plan, so that would be something like you ask somebody on your team to handle something, but then there's a major incident at work. That human being knows I should switch my focus to the major incident, right? Because something big just happened. Can we create computer systems that do the same thing? Action enabled, we'll talk about all those later, right? But this is the basics of what you need to understand. Generative AI is we're making new stuff, but it's a one-shot back and forth. And sometimes you're sitting there and you're prompting again and again and again and again. But essentially, you write a prompt, you click enter, it gives you something back, the relationship is over, right? Agentic AI, that's not happening. You're not even in a chat interface most of the times. You've built a system that is just always doing stuff. It's just alive, it's autonomous, it has agency. And that's where we will have a discussion later about what that means for the companies that we work out and the sort of stuff that they're building to leverage, right, agentic AI. And so here's a key point at the bottom. Generative AI versus agentic AI is not exactly an accurate comparison because an agentic AI system can use generative AI tools like making, you have a system that's always scanning your database and it writes reports all the time. Anytime it sees a certain combination of data, it writes a report, automatically sends the email, it's always on. Well, writing the report is generating content. But the general public, like all those articles I was showing you, they've basically adopted generative AI versus agentic AI as a difference, where generative really just means chatbots like ChatGPT, Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, Claude, DeepSeek, that's really what they mean. Generative, some chatbot, agentic, something way more, involved. So we're gonna go through an exercise. All right, I'm gonna have some scenarios on the screen. All you need to do is read the scenario and try and see, is that generative AI? Is it agentic AI? Is it neither? So maybe it's not either of them, or is it both? So those are your options. Generative, agentic, both, or neither. And here's our first scenario on the screen. So a user types, summarize this 10-page report for me. The system reads a document and creates a summary. It provides that summary and then it stops and it waits for the next request from the user. Who said it first? I don't know, man. All right, generative. Can we clap for this man here? Generative AI. Yeah, there we go. Generative AI. And why is it generative AI? Because it's classic chatbot behavior. The system only responds when prompted, right? And this level of understanding is important as you go back to work and you interface with IT teams and they're making decisions about what to build and what system to use, right? So this is generative AI. We're all very familiar with this. All right, the next one. The system monitors all your meetings continuously. Microsoft has something that does this, actually. It understands context when someone says the thing we discussed last week in the meeting, right? Without prompting, it creates action items, and it automatically schedules follow-ups based on what it was said. What kind of AI? Who said, help me out. Both? Well, actually, if this would work, come on, friend. Agentic AI, yeah. I'm going to rely on the mic runners. You choose whoever got it first, all right? Your responsibility. All right, agentic AI, right? And why is this agentic AI? Look at how much it's doing where you're not sitting here saying, make sure to monitor the meeting. It's just happening in the background, right? But it's happening in the background with intelligence, right? Traditional automation can't get this done. Reading all your meetings, did we have this before 2022? Something that could do this, right? If you use Microsoft Copilot, it does this, and some of us are very happy for it because nobody likes taking meeting notes, right? The key on this slide, though, that makes it artificial intelligence and not just software automation is this bolded area at the bottom called natural language. It can understand human language. And so there's a major concept in AI called NLP, and does anyone know? All right, hand up first. What does the N stand for? Natural, you gave it all. Natural language processing. Can we clap for this gentleman? Natural language processing, right? Let me go back. All right, natural works with human language, right? Language, you know what language is. Processing, computer systems that take all that information, it can understand it. Now, you may be surprised, when do you think we came up with this? Which one of these? You got your options. Which decade or time period, really, when did humanity start figuring this out? Sorry? 90s? Okay, not the 90s. Yeah, we got the options are 1950s, 1959, 2017, or 2021. Which one of those do you think it was? Oh, 59. Okay, close. It was the 50s, all right? And it was invented by Alan Turing, who we talked about before, right? If you saw, does anyone know what was happening in the 1950s? Tough time for humanity. Yeah, World War II, right? So they were getting really creative with breaking, I believe it was listening to the communications of their enemies and decrypting the codes, and they came up with this, and it's only been growing since then. So what we have today is built on the back of a lot of hard work over many, many years. So here's our next one. We have a system that runs every night at 2 a.m. It copies all customer data to backup storage. It then sends a completion notification to the IT team, and it follows the exact same steps every single time. Who said it first? This is neither, right? That gentleman, can we clap for this gentleman as well? All right, this is neither. What is this? This is just like we've been doing this since the 90s or 80s. We've been doing this forever. And so it's very important for you to realize that some of the stuff people are pushing to you as agentic AI is just normal software automation. We've been hiring people to do this forever. You can do this, even if you don't write code, Microsoft has something called Power Automate. You can get this done in an hour. This is not there's no human understanding, there's no natural language. It's just following step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 1, step 2, step 3. This is traditional computer programming, so great job. All right, we got another one. The user asks, what's our best-selling product? All right, the system retrieves real-time data from the sales database and answers the user using that information. The system also monitors sales 24 hours, 7 days a week, and it alerts on trends, and it adjusts inventory orders autonomously. Both. Who said it? You guys help me out. Somebody said it. Both. That's both, right? Great job. You have agentic AI and you have generative AI working together. And this is what all those Fortune 500 companies want, right? This is what they're asking Microsoft to come up with, and Amazon and Google and all these different groups of people. So both. Yeah, we got both. So generative AI is the first 2 bullet points. That's like me. I'm a sales guy at some company, and I do this. But that's generative AI. The system, though, I go to sleep at night, and this thing is still going. I come in the morning, and it sends me an email. It's like, hey, I adjusted all your sales, blah, 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 blah. Just click approve if you think I did a good job, right? This is both of them working together all the time. Now, we have retrieves and we have monitors. So this acronym is probably, if there's one thing you leave with, it's this acronym, right? This is very important. It was invented by Meta in 2022, right? So as much as we sometimes criticize that company, the software people there are very smart, and they came up with a way to make sure that AI, oh, well, I can't tell you the answer. So what does the R stand for? All right, retrieval. Yes, clap for this young lady right here. All right, retrieval. Come on, button. Retrieval. It goes out to a real world source and it brings it back in. Retrieval. So what does the A stand for? Maybe less obvious. Ah, I heard it. Augmented. Can we clap for this gentleman? Yes, augmented. Come on. Augmented, which means after it goes to retrieve the information, the response AI gives you is way better. So you type, who won the game last night? Well, let's be more specific. Who won the Cowboys game last night? Back in 2022, 2022, it could not help you. Couldn't help you, right? Today, can it answer that question? So it got better. They've been working hard. And what does the G stand for? Huh? It's obvious. We've used this word many times. Generate, yeah. Clap for all of you. Clap for yourselves. You all got it right? Generation, right? After it goes and gets the information, it augments its response. So what it wants to tell you, it makes it better. Then it generates an answer, right? So this is probably the most important thing to take back to work because this is what allows your company. Your company probably has a lot of data you don't want public, like your inside stuff. So when you get an AI solution, this is what you want it to do over your company's data so that it responds. Don't give me a generic response. Tell me what my company's policy says. Tell me what my sales database says. Not the whole world, just the one inside my company. And so to make this even more, punchy, this is retrieval augmented generation. You look it up, you add it to the context, and then you answer with it. That's what we got AI doing. This is a huge deal, right? This is really what has made chatbots not suck, right? Because they're able to get information the way we get information. If you ask me, what time is it? Do I just keep the time? As I'm a human, right? I'm intelligent, but do we just keep time in our head? If you ask me what time it is, I'm like, give me a second. It's 10:41, right? And that's what we allowed AI to do. And that's it. All right. So we got another scenario. Now that you have this knowledge, the user says, fix the bug we discussed. So this would be like me using GitHub. I can't tell you because then it's obvious. All right. So user says, fix the bug we discussed. The system recalls the conversation from 50 messages ago. It identifies a specific bug from context and provides the fix in chat, then stops. What kind? Yeah, this is only generative. Did anyone get generative, my friend? Nobody? All right. Oh, okay, all right. Can we clap for this young lady over here? Generative AI? All right. So, think about what's going on here. I'm a software developer. Even though it's going back in context, right, that's because we have an ongoing conversation. We've been talking, right? But there's nothing about this that's running all the time. It's responding to my direction. That I'm saying, go figure out the bug, it gives me the fix, and then it stops. It doesn't do anything else, right? So the most important thing here is the idea of context, right? And we're going to talk about how important this is to AI systems, because this is also a huge part of why AI has gotten a lot better, is the ability to remember the way we have human memory. So what does context mean? Not a trick question. What does context mean just for human beings? Just like the word Merriam-Webster dictionary, not artificial intelligence, anything. What does context mean? Yeah, like your environment, right? The stuff, so can we clap again, right? Environment, right? It's the stuff around that gives you, I can't use the word context in the definition. It's the stuff around that gives you meaning and information, right? So if someone walks up to me and says, you all right? I need context to understand why you think I wouldn't be all right. You know, maybe a few days ago, I had a major accident, and then you're checking in on me. But without context, it makes no sense. If we can't give, like when we say artificial intelligence, it's artificially intelligent after who? After dogs, cats, after who? After humanity, right? You all are great at having context. You understand, I can say something to you and not be that detailed, but you remember the last conversation we had, and you just keep going, right? We have to give AI the ability to do that, or else it's not going to be very good. So there's another concept called a context window, which is basically memory. How much information can that system hold? And this predates AI. If you've ever heard of a random access memory on your computer, like if you have too many tabs open, it slows down, because that's too much, right? The computer cannot handle all that data you're trying to have it process and have open at the same time. We've done the same thing with artificial intelligence. So that's the context window. All right, we got another one. The system writes articles from trending topics. It generates images using a design platform. It posts simultaneously to a website, socials, and newsletters. And it adjusts search engine optimization based on platform performance. What kind of AI is this? I heard a bunch of generative. All right, well, come on, button. Agentic AI. And this is where things get you see how, right? This is not a matter of you not being smart enough. This is what I mean when I say people are this is a complicated area we're getting into, right? This is even though we have the word generate, who is generating it? Is it me using ChatGPT? Who's generating? The system by itself, without me telling it to. I just gave it, I'm a software developer, I built the system, I gave it the general instructions, it just does this, right? So this is an agentic AI system that is using generative AI, and this is what I mean when I say, when you see an article by New York Times, generative AI versus agentic AI, it's more complicated than that, right? Basically, that's a good way to understand it, but it's more complicated. This is agentic AI because it autonomously orchestrates across several disconnected platforms. So the key thing here, though, is if we are generating images using a design platform, that could be something like Midjourney, Microsoft Designer, Canva, right? Adobe Photoshop. You're posting simultaneously to a website. So that's a website, right? But socials, you have a Facebook account, Instagram account, Twitter account, TikTok account, and then you're adjusting SEO, your search engine optimization. That's probably a different portal. So how many different things is this AI system going and touching? It's logging into your TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, SEO portal. It's logging into Canva. Does ChatGPT do that automatically? So that's a differentiation with agentic AI. And here's another very important acronym. And this one is very hot and new, fresh off the press, right? Does anyone want to take a guess at what MCP stands for? This is the current rage among all AI developers anywhere. It's a very big deal. And I heard something. Close, not multiple, close. Not meta content, close. The M is a word that there was an acronym we had earlier. It wasn't GPT, it was the one after that. And the M in that one is the same M here. Model, who said model? I heard it. All right, can we clap for this lady? Yes. Am I out of rewards? Am I out? Oh, okay, that might be the last one. Good for you. All right, the M is model. All right, so to do what we saw on the previous slide, you have to choose a model. GPT-5, Claude Sonnet 4.5, Gemini 2. So you got to choose one, right? Microsoft 5 something. You have to choose a model. Choose which AI system is going to be your guy. The C is something we've already talked about. Context. Who said that? Clap for this, man. Context, right? In order for it to be good, it needs context. And the context in this case is logging into all your stuff that you allow it to. Responsible AI. So your Instagram account, your TikTok, because it's posting to your social media. You let it log into your Google search account. You let it log into your website so it can post an article on your website. It needs all that context. It needs your very specific context. And the P, I'll let you guess. It's not a common word, I guess. What do you think? I heard something. Protocol, who said that? Clap for whoever said protocol. Yes, great job. Protocol. All right, this is the way that people present this today is it's like a USB-C system for AI. You know, that's all right. I think it's easier to think about it as like standardization, just that word, is you don't need a different system to connect to Instagram than you need to connect to Twitter. It's just one software package. They all use the same thing. We all have USB-C chargers. We all like drive on the, what side do we drive on? The left side, right? We all do it the same way. It's just a standard. All right, so we got a different scenario. The system helps users write emails when asked. After each suggestion, users rate its helpfulness. Okay, it incorporates feedback into its model. The next release understands context much better. This is very interesting. What do we think? So the options are generative, agentic, both, or neither. Those are our options again. What do we think? This is tough, right? They're getting tougher as we move on. That was intentional, right? So this is generative AI. And the reason it's generative AI is even though this system is helping users, what's at the end of that sentence? When asked. It doesn't do anything unless they ask it. So when you go to Microsoft Outlook, we have shoved Copilot in there, right? But Copilot leaves you alone unless you do what? You click the button. Yeah, you click the button, you ask it, or else it does nothing. So it's not really agentic. It's not doing anything until you kick it off, right? Now this process of having one system that makes the stuff, right, and another system that's being used to collect feedback. Sometimes Microsoft will pop up something that asks you to like rate your experience 1 to 5, or click thumbs up or thumbs down. What do you think they do with that? That's actually very important. What do you think they do when you tell it, I asked Copilot, and the response I got, I did not like it, thumbs down. They take that information and they make it better the next time. And it's actually a part of the artificial intelligence journey. And this is another key acronym. This one is not common. I don't think most even software developers know what this stands for, so I would be impressed if we got this one. All right? What do you think the RLHF? What do you think the R stands for? It's not like a common word. Huh? Sorry? Random? Okay, that's a great guess. No, not random. You know, retrieval. That's a great guess as well. It's not. This one's not common. Rational? No, not rational. It's not common. These are all great guesses. So the R, this is a machine learning term, right? Reinforcement. The L is learning, right? The H is human, and the F is feedback. To make a long story short, is they came up with a system to take human feedback to AI and to use that to make it better. And this is why ChatGPT, with every release, gets a little bit better at understanding people. Because and they don't always do this with end users. They hire people just to do this. They just use it and give feedback. This is actually more recent than you might think. Maybe I gave away the answer. When do you think we came up with this? Yeah, not quite yesterday. Yeah, this was 2017 we came up with this, all right? It was invented by a man at Google. His name is Ian Goodfellow, and this is how AI started rapidly being developed. All right, so it started rapidly being developed. All right, we got another scenario. A user requests create review examples. The system creates fake customer reviews on demand. Another system ensures they look realistic, and then the initial system outputs the reviews, then stops. What is this? Generative. Okay, good job. Why? You ask, and then it does it, and then does it do anything else? It does nothing, right? So, but this concept, right, of a system generating reviews, then it stops, and then another system checking the reviews, and it stops, is actually a fundamental part of why generative AI systems are able to create realistic-looking images, right? Has anyone ever heard of Sora, right, that's making videos right now? All right, this acronym is how they got it to be so good. The G is obvious. We've used this word a lot. Generative, right? The A is less obvious, adversarial, and the N is networks. So, the way that we've developed a system that can make realistic-looking images and videos is to have one AI make content, The other AI try and spot fake content and have the systems do that for a very long time, trillions of iterations, until it gets to the point where it's able to make things that look realistic. And that's why we have now, in our modern day, AI-generated videos that none of us can really tell was generated by AI. All right, so I think you're ready, right? You got all the major acronyms. The biggest one was RAG. If you got Retrieval Augmented Generation, you did well, right? When you go back to work and you have to interface with IT teams or there's some vendor coming to sell you an AI solution, these are the sort of questions you're going to want to ask, right? What type, or does it act without being asked? Is it truly agentic? Do we really need an agentic AI, or can we just use normal software automation? Do we need to spend all this money on your agentic AI system, or can we just write a script or a Power Automate flow? Not everything needs to be AI, right? RAG is the system, Retrieval Augmented Generation, go get information, bring it back in. MCP is what lets it plug into all your stuff. Log into your Facebook account, make posts for you. Log into your Twitter, make posts for you. And then with this knowledge, hopefully, you're able to be more, critical of IT teams and make sure they're building you the sort of solution that you really need. And these are advanced concepts. This is just me driving home. I think there's a lot of talk about what happens to the software developer position, because we talked about traditional automation. And now, there's a lot of cases where we don't need to have somebody write that script because we can build a system that does it. That has not really. Maybe in 2022 we thought we would fire all the IT staff, but the more we keep going, the more we realize we actually need them to build new skills, because it's getting kind of complicated to make agentic AI systems. Bank of America is a great example. Like, the amount of context you need to actually provide value to Bank of America with an agentic AI system is insane. Like, they're just a complicated company. And so your developers kind of need to go and pick up the stuff on here. And this has been all my learning recently and what the people at Microsoft are trying to learn, so we can build these systems. And I got some examples for you. But before I get to my examples, here are some of the leading platforms. Again, I'm not here to sell you anything, right? But these are the leading agentic AI platforms for enterprise, right? So Microsoft Copilot Studio, I'll mention. Everybody at Microsoft who's a PM or a TPM are being pushed every day to use Microsoft Copilot Studio to build. You can build your own generative AI chatbot just for your team, right? And they're even trying to push for you to be able to build agentic systems using that. Salesforce has a similar thing to Microsoft Copilot Studio. Amazon's in the bottom left. That is a code. You kind of need to be a developer to get going with that. Same thing with Azure AI Foundry. So think of Copilot Studio, Salesforce, Agentforce, and Google's Vertex AI Agent Builder as things that they're pushing so that people can build AI systems and not really need to write a bunch of code, right? So like Wix, Squarespace, the website builders, imagine that, but for AI. And they're actually pretty good. I mean, everything is growing, but they're pretty good. And this is another slide that shows, does anyone, who's a Microsoft shop here? Anyone use? Right. So if you have an M365 subscription, you might have seen we have Copilot on the internet, but we also have an app called Microsoft 365 Copilot. They're giving you the ability to build an agent inside of that. They're pushing that out to the world. Copilot Studio comes with that license, and then the far right is that's me every single day, right? Building really complicated systems. And so I'm going to give you an example. When I say on the far right, you might think, why can't we just ask AI to do everything? I'm going to show you why, all right? This is my power slide, right? Building enterprise software is still hard. Even though AI has been great and has made all sorts of impact, it is still very hard to build enterprise software. Companies are complicated. They have so many demands. They have so many laws, right? You don't go to chatgpt.com and just type something in and all of this works. I'm going to show you why. This is a solution that Microsoft built for an insurance underwriting company, an agentic AI solution. All right, take a picture of this slide because I'm short on time, but every single one of these agents has a lot of code that they wrote to make a medical specialist agent, an insurance profiler agent, a summary agent. Those are very, very specific domains of the company. And the amount of context that you have to give it so that it's only focused on being a medical special agent is a lot. And then the amount of time you have to spend keeping it updated every time something changes in the field is a lot. So there are developers who are, sitting there looking at the news that says they're going to fire all of us, and they're like, well, man, I'm busier than ever. right? I'm actually stressed out because they want me to build this overnight, right? Here's another example. This is an order-to-cash system that Microsoft built for a different company that I'm not allowed to name, right? But same thing, where what we're building for them is sufficiently complex that slide earlier about the advanced concepts, that's very much still a thing. So that's the point I'm driving home here, right? Agentic AI has not gotten rid of the need for people with technical skills or for people who understand systems, so PMs. It's amplified it. Because what we're trying to do is take a lot of the stuff in your product backlog that your developers keep telling you we can't get to and see if we can build a system to get it done. But to build that system, it gets complicated. It gets pretty involved. And with all this being said, there's a great article about if we go back a few slides, right? And we have something inside the company where each one of these, what does agent mean again? What does agency mean? Yeah, the ability to act independently. So if this is acting independently at some insurance company and you're their customer, how do you feel? Right? I feel like, I hope it's very responsible. I hope you put all the right guardrails in place. And so the MIT Technology Review, they wrote a great article, please scan this QR code, about how they've basically gone out and talked to companies who've built these solutions and tried to have them be candid about how dangerous this stuff can get if you don't build it properly, if you don't set the proper guardrails. And yeah, that's really it. I also write, so I have a companion article to this presentation. It's the QR code on the far left, which is basically me, if you felt like this was too fast or a lot of acronyms, I wrote it all down for you so you can follow up behind the scenes. I also have an article about my personal opinions on the impact of artificial intelligence on careers, and then that's my LinkedIn there. And I'll leave this up, but that's all I got. Thank you all.
All right. Thanks, Sagan.
Yep.
Good presentation.